Oh,
Here we go. Okay, go ahead.
all right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We are finally here and we're live. Thank you, Andrea, for
Mhm.
being here and for arranging the Streamyard.
Absolutely.
Um, so helpful, so incredibly helpful. I've never heard of Streamyard before, so this is a great resource.
Yes.
So, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking a little bit with Andrea in regards to forgiveness.
Yes.
And the reason why I specifically wanted to talk about forgiveness is because I myself am realizing that in going through my own healing journey, I was raised with the lineage of having that ability,
Hmm.
but I did not realize that we first need to really heal ourselves before truly making any true impact on anybody
Right.
else. And
Absolutely.
so when Andrea and I had talked, we just got along so well.
Hmm.
And I think that we've both had some hardships and some
Hmm.
experiences that have really led us to maximize this life and our abilities in this life and our tools that we can give others. And
Hmm.
so Andrea has studied under Les Brown. She is a
Hmm.
student of his, and I am going to pass it over to her so that she can talk a little bit about what she learned with Les Brown, how long she's been doing this, and just give us a little bit of information as to um, all the gifts you're providing the world right now.
Yes. Thank you so much, Victoria, for connecting with me and collaborating on this platform this evening. It has been an amazing journey, to say the least. As most of you have known, I have embarked on this journey kind of like happenstance. So, a little bit about me to keep it brief and mindful of time. I was born in South America, in Colombia, South America, and my parents weren't able to care for themselves. So, they put me up for adoption, and I came to America weighing in at 11 pounds at 11 months. And to my adopted American family, it was a treasure. To me, it was a tragedy. I did not have any photographs, medical records, or knowledge of my biological parents. So I propelled to go through the heartache and struggles during my life and being a victim of being bullied, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. I kind of came into my own. I had a blank slate and I was able to clean the slate and learn from my mistakes, which propelled me to enroll in the industries of social work and psychology. Social work to understand the cultural diversity, psychology for the science. And upon my journey, I was able to really find myself and connect with the Mr. Les Brown. He allowed me to find my story, to share my story, mission, and message with the world to be the light onto others. And in doing so, I have taken all of my lessons, heartaches, and losses and embarked it into a transformational journey. And here I am teaching people to achieve the healing power of forgiveness to achieve personal freedom.
I love that so much. And, one thing that really, as we were discussing doing a potential interview, I really wanted to go inside of
Mhm.
myself. And I didn't want to have superficial questions.
Right.
I wanted to really go into my God self
Hmm.
and say, what do I feel I need most at
Hmm.
this time? Because my community, we magnetize our communities, right?
Right. Hmm.
And so for me, I've been realizing that I am incredibly mean to myself
Hmm.
sometimes.
Hmm.
I have discovered that I am a self sabotager. That was last year. I did writings all year last year on um, affirmations
Hmm.
and just really convincing my own mind that I was of value. And
Hmm.
now, inherently, I think that we know that. We know that we're of value. We know that, like, our God self knows that we are incredible,
Right.
right? But there's this other part of us the
Mhm.
ego part of us that's
Yes.
like, that's scary. You're not up for that job.
Yes.
And I've lived that, I lived a life where I was, I don't want to, without disclosing too much, right?
Right.
I lived in a constant state of fear. I was
Right.
always fearful of authority. I was
Hmm.
fearful of quote unquote bad guys. I was very
Hmm.
confused as to who the bad guys were in this life.
Right. Right.
And I think that's even more prevalent now than before. I feel like
Hmm.
my parents never talked to me about good guys and bad guys in the church
Right.
and in you know in regards to authorities. I don't
Hmm.
know that we really had a lot of those conversations. And
Right.
what happens, I feel, with that is that we take ownership for these things that are happening.
Yes. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so I've been noticing that I will say, you know, for example, like, oh, Victoria, that's so dumb,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And we don't think anything of that. That's no
Right.
big deal to us. We're so quick to say that to ourselves, but
Yes.
then really saying, okay, whose voice actually said that?
Right.
Where did you
Exactly.
hear that for the first time? Who
Yes.
told you that
Hmm.
you should believe that? And so I have made a little list of
Hmm.
things that I remember. And I even feel guilty to feel any, I feel guilty to put blame onto anybody else
Right. Right.
because they're good people.
Hmm.
And I feel like I don't want to put them in negative light. And that's
Hmm.
not what this is about.
Right. Not at all.
And I'm realizing that. So I'd really like to pass it to you and ask you a little bit about that specifically. Where can we really address that inner self-talk that's not
Hmm.
necessarily our own, and
Right.
forgive the people whom have lent us their voice?
Yes. And I think this is a huge topic and component of misconception, misunderstanding. What I've learned during my journey is that people share, disclose, or portray only what they know.
Right.
A lot of people don't do the research, don't most likely understand the resource, the root cause, or sometimes don't even may subliminally not even be aware that they're hurting you.
Right.
And we have to take that into consideration. And the reason why I say this is I'm so glad you addressed this is because not only are we wanting in a defensive way, we want to point the finger, but at the same token, why is this being bestowed upon us? What did we do in deserving of that? And what I have studied, learned, and guide with individuals is let's first look at the root cause, as you mentioned. What is the intent, the resource, the knowledge or lack thereof of this mindset that you have adopted? And before we went on air, the false belief that we've taken into our own account.
Right.
And when we do that, we have to realize people kind of laugh when I say this, but to be truth and to be honest, each and every one of us is a name on a therapeutic couch. Somebody who's empowered us or somebody who's hurt us, right?
Right.
And until we understand the nature of their intention, and based on the limited knowledge or awareness we have of ourselves to say what drew you to that conclusion to state that, to treat me that way, we are still kind of lost in translation. And what we don't do as humans, especially as empaths, healers, spiritual individuals who are connected on that realm, is we don't question in fear of guilt. And that is where we self sabotage because we accept it for it. We go into that infantile state well, maybe I did deserve it. Maybe I'm not seeing something. And you're putting validation into this false belief that
And that
someone who may or may not have known that they've intentionally done for they've been treated that way or intended to do it with spite.
and see, and I think that that sentiment, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, um, that has almost created a magnetism
Mhm.
of exactly that
Yes.
without my even ever dissecting it and getting to the root cause.
Hmm.
So that's why I really wanted to bring this up. And one thing that helped me a lot in this
Hmm.
process was realizing that I'm certain I've done this to others. I'm certain
Yes.
I've said something to somebody somewhere along the lines, and they held on to one
Hmm.
specific word or one specific sentence or one thing, right?
Hmm.
And has have taken ownership of that and created a magnetism around themselves with that.
Right.
And now I was going to ask, do you have any further insight in regards to that?
Well, in regards to that, as far as insight, is we adopt these false beliefs because it's easier to believe. Again, you had brought up ego, and you also have to look at the individual source. Now, truth be told, most of these individuals are from our inner circle, our family, our loved ones. And as empaths, healers, and spiritual, and those who live from the heart, it's damaging. How could they think that? How could they say that? Then you start assessing, am I emulating this energy, this appearance or trait
Mm-hmm.
that validates them? And we have this constant battle within our mind where it's just easier to say, they're right, I'm wrong, rather than stopping, assessing, rather than accepting. Because it's amazing when there's a quote out there, and pardon me, I don't know the resource, but people don't really pay attention or focus on what you say,
Right.
but how you made them feel.
Right.
And it's really speaks true because I can remember and I can do a laundry list, Victoria, of how many people said negative things to me.
Mm.
But when there was something positive, my immediate reaction at the time then was cowering. That feels uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really that good. Why are what is your intent? Like you put up that fight or flight, that resistance of self sabotage. I'm not deserving of this.
Right.
And that's what happens that causes these bystanders. If we don't face our past will continue to chase us. And that's what I've understood and learned in the social work and psychology realm when I went out to meet with individuals in the field from infant to geriatric, streets, homebound, heinous crimes. I went in with the attention to speak to another human. That's
Right.
somebody's sister, daughter, mother, father, brothers, uncle. And I got a lot of a backlash for that. Well, you need the chart. This is what they've done. This is what they're doing. This is their diagnosis. This is their prognosis and symptoms. And I just pushed it to the side because, like many of you have heard this, one of my favorite lines from a Broadway musical is from Les Miserables. Horrible, depressing story. Pardon me. But the final excerpt is to love another person is to see the face of God, your creator, your higher self. And when we start viewing through that lens, how beautiful the world will be.
I love that you brought that up because I feel like we we as humans have an incredibly hard time in relationship
Yes.
until we have a good relationship with ourselves. And
Right.
I know that's so cliche, and I've heard this a million times over, right?
Yes.
But the thing is that we will continue to create problem
Hmm.
where there is no problem because, again, like you said, that's what feels best to us. It doesn't feel
Right.
good,
Right. But
it
that's
feels
what
comfortable.
Exactly.
That's a
Exactly.
big difference.
Yes.
We don't need to feel comfortable in that way anymore. And it's
Right.
like realizing that we can choose to make a different choice. That's really tricky.
Yes.
So, in regards to relationships,
Hmm.
do you have any advice when you are having difficulty forgiving somebody in a relationship? And I mean like something minute, okay? Like
Oh, yes.
if somebody's married, like let's say even 5 years. I was gonna say 20 because y'all can just pick any
Right.
little thing out of the air at 20 years.
Right.
But my husband and I are married 16, so I know how that goes.
Congratulations. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
But it's like why do we do this? When we are nitpicking our partner,
Mhm.
is that then telling us that we need to do some self-reflection?
Yes. You see, it's funny you mentioned that. I love two words that you've chosen: choice and awareness of our reflection. When we're engaged in our relationship, the media and society and the world says 50-50. I don't know about you, but it's 100-100 all in.
Right.
And what the biggest area of improvement in relationships, any relationships, marital, spousal, familial, business, is effective communication.
Mm.
We have so many restrictions on our emotions. And when we want something, we don't ask for it. But when we don't get it, we complain we don't have it. And sometimes we have to be careful what we want, because when it does happen, we go back to what you said. We self sabotage and feel undeserving of it, that we're not deserving of it. Okay, yeah, you did that. Thanks. Okay, now it's uncomfortable. I'm done. You know what I mean? And when we deal with relationships, we have to understand it's not just solely that individual. You're dealing with the individual's past,
Right.
their subconscious, their familial, their personal, and their future evolution or degeneration, depending which way and mindset that they're in. But
Mm.
we hold ourselves so accountable and responsible for what they don't do that we lose focus on what we need to enhance, what we need to improve upon. And that's where the discord comes in: the communication, the understanding. And the communication is not just to say something and be heard. The communication is to be heard and to understand.
Mhm.
Because if we just respond and react, we're talking to each other's wall, and there's no evolution, there's no progression. And I think we have to be careful with our words.
Yeah.
For me, a couple of my triggers is like I said this before. You didn't hear me. These are direct, assertive connotations of verbal communication. Where
Mm.
if we just soften it a tiny bit, man, woman, child, or elderly, or authority, this is, you know what, if I have a second, this is how I interpret it. So you're telling me this is what you mean.
Mhm.
Gain clarification. Because as I do, Victoria, time is precious.
Mhm.
And if we don't get that time back, which most likely we don't, we can miss out on a huge message or have false perspective for the future.
That is really interesting to me actually because I remember early on in our relationship,
Hmm.
and I don't know why this came up, but um, my husband had bought me flowers
Hmm.
and I didn't have a typical response. I was
Hmm.
like, "What did you do?"
Right.
And
Right.
it occurred as I was saying it,
Hmm.
it occurred to me that I'm like, okay, you're promoting that he not get you flowers anymore because of your
Exactly.
own issues. you know,
Insecurities, limited self-esteem or worth or whatever that may be. Yes.
it was really
Yes.
weird. And
Yes.
and I caught that and I was
Hmm.
like, why did I do that? Where did that come
Right.
from? Right?
Right.
But I also have witnessed other people going through tremendous issue
Hmm.
in relationships, and
Hmm.
I guess I believed that was what a relationship was.
Yes.
Like before I got married, I
Hmm.
remember always saying to myself, why do people get married?
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't understand the benefit, right? Because
Hmm.
I didn't see it as we're talking about it now. I
Hmm.
didn't see it as like, this person reflects back to me my own beauty. Like,
Right.
we want, all we really truly want, I think, I'm not sure, but I think what we want is to see our own beauty reflected in each other.
Yes.
Like, I used to tell my husband all
Yes.
the time, like, I do all these things, right? Like, sometimes I even tell, this actually leads into what we're talking about here.
Right. Right.
But I tell him, I'm like, honey, sometimes I stop talking simply because I feel like I'm lying.
Yes.
These are not these are not bogus stories. All my
Hmm.
stories are always like, I'm not a fibber, but it
Right.
sounds so outlandish
Hmm.
sometimes with some of just the amazing things that have happened to me in this life
Right.
that I feel guilty
Hmm.
about sharing that story because I feel like someone might think that I'm lying. And I'm
Right.
like, this is another weird thing that I've learned to do to myself. And
Yes.
I wonder how much of that is similar to the whole ability to accept a compliment.
Yes.
And I want to
Absolutely.
see your insight on that and your take on that.
Absolutely. It's a great point because when we are going through certain areas and dynamics of our life, right? There's a time to be accepted. There's a time to be nurtured. There's a time to be heroic. There's a time to be vulnerable. But nobody prepares you for when that's going to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And when we feel that it's a double edged sword, right? You get a compliment, most people thrive off of that and welcome it. But when you've witnessed a life that isn't what they portray story type, then that's uncomfortable. That has to be earned. That
Mm.
has to be valued. And you have to do something for that credit, right? So when we get a compliment and we're not comfortable with it, it totally correlates into heightened awareness and vulnerability of our personal self. Because the way we see each ourselves is how the world sees us. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't keep that into effect. All of my life, I was always incognito. I would be jokingly called the FBI in my own family because I was just so reserved about everything and anything because of judgment, because of critique, because of their reactions or lack thereof. When we set our expectations to parallel what the other is going to do, we set ourselves up to failure every single time.
I love
And
it.
when we're not transparent and vulnerable, we start morphing into someone that we're not. And other people say, well, why is she saying that? Why is he saying that? Is it for attention? Is it for recognition? Is it to show that she's has more scars than I do? When all we're really doing as women, as warriors, as nurturers and caregivers, we just want to reciprocate someone's love and acceptance because
Mm.
that's what society has portrayed us to. And we have been so far back in the era, and we're still climbing the tower of success, that we're conquering, dividing our own gender as opposed to rising and uniting.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like talking out the other side of your mouth. If you want to be valued, if you want to, and not even want to, if you're worthy, and each and every one person on this planet is is our creator's masterpiece, then we must, as Mr. Brown said, must be a piece of the master. And that's where we intertwine and interlock to realize that's why we're all different. We have different stories,
Oh, I love
different
it.
experiences. But if you were, let's say, having difficulty communicating in a relationship, but that's where I thrived, and I had difficulty of being accepted and fear of abandoned and vulnerable, and you had that, that's where we interlock.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of brought this collaboration this evening together.
Mm-hmm.
How can we show the world we've never met, but we have all the similar stories, just different versions of it? Where I may be on chapter 10, you're on chapter 20. But in this area, I may be on the end of it, and you might be in the beginning.
Right, right.
And once we realize that the cliche, it takes a village to raise a child, that we don't have to do this alone. We don't have to be in the dark. I found myself in each and every connection today. And that's what makes me persevere and be available to work with people.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I think when you said that, it made me realize that I think we did, in fact, blend so well when we connected,
Mhm.
because we did see the beauty in one another,
Yes.
in a spiritual way and a communal kind of way of wanting to bring greater good. Because I
Yes.
remember when I met you, I thought, wow, this woman is amazing. Like, why did she give me her time?
Right.
And
Oh,
I
thank
went
you.
back into that, right?
Right.
And I think to myself, this is what we're here to do. This is something we're here to address.
Right.
And so I'm looking at my time here, and it looks
Yes. We
like
got
we're down
about
to the
2 minutes.
2 minutes. But
Yes.
with that, I want to
Yes.
ask you, what are 2 suggestions that you would recommend for all of the viewers as to how we can just maybe one or two simple things that we can do going into the new year to really accept and forgive ourselves?
Absolutely. Number one, most importantly, as you've heard me before, follow your heart and not the herd, nor the hurt, for success and happiness is on the other side. And secondly, never, never, ever apologize or explain yourself to anyone for you being your number one asset and being present for the best version of you.
Ah, yeah, I love that. Yes.
Yes.
Andrea, I wanted to ask you, do
Yes.
you have any master classes coming up or any group calls, anything like that?
Yes, I do. I am actually fixing that up shortly, and the announcement will be probably after the first of the year. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
great.
And you can find that on my website, andreamasons.com, as well as my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn platforms, and YouTube, Your Personal Accountability Coach, Andrea Mason. And for those of you watching, I would love to take advantage of providing you a complimentary session of 30 minutes to allow yourself to choose, as Miss Victoria said, to press play, plan life according to you. Absolutely.
Yay. Well,
Yes.
that was a wonderful ending.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time, Andrea. I love
Yes.
you. I appreciate you. I
Love you
respect
too.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And everyone else here on the call, please do comment and let us know where you're from, who you are, some of your
Absolutely.
questions. We might come back on in
Yeah.
the
About
near
a month or
future.
so. Yeah.
Yes, hopefully in
Absolutely.
a month.
Yes.
So drop your questions, and this will give us something to talk about and something
Yes.
to address. But this is something that we are loving doing and we
Hmm.
want to bring to our communities. So hit us up in the comments.
Yes.
And also for me, if any of you are struggling with anxiety or anything of that sort, please do
Yes.
reach out to me and I'd be happy to give you a consultation in regards to plant nutrition.
Yes. And our information is in the description below, and you can reach us anytime. Thank you
That's
so
right.
much for your time, making the world a better place, one person at a
Likewise.
time. Yes.
Likewise.
All
Okay.
right.
Gracias, amiga.
Take care. Ciao.
Ciao.